water access and security from drought and flooding. Today, they estimate about 800 million people have no clean water source in their home, their hut, or their village. I mean, how long would you, if I may ask, Doug, for example, Doug, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but you're a teacher, so you don't mind, right?
No problem.
So wherever you live, I don't know where you live, Doug, but in your community, like how long would your community stay peaceful if you had no clean water to drink in your little community, wherever you live?
Actually, I'm living in an RV park.
Okay.
And we had our water cut off a couple of times.
Yeah.
And the tensions rose significantly.
Yes.
Very quickly.
Yes. Good point.
The right guy to talk about that problem. Okay.
Well, there you go. And imagine if you're living in a trailer park where you are, Doug, and there's no clean water at all, and the nearest clean water source is a pond, and somebody in that RV park has to walk 2 to 3 miles and carry it. No car, no vehicle, you gotta carry it. So this is some of the challenges that people are facing. Now, they say 800 million today, no clean water. They're projecting about 1.4 billion by the year 2050, no clean water in their environment. So you can see that the challenges are enormous. Do we have a chair for our guest?
Yes, we do. Sorry, the parking.
Oh, I know.
Is atrocious.
Good morning, there's no parking. Yes.
Sorry.
Now, let's talk about continuing with the theme of water under the surface. Let's look at Vancouver so we all can relate to Greater Vancouver very well. Sea level rise by ½ meter over the next 30 years if no action is taken. Now, look at this map here. You can see that all of the areas that will be threatened by flooding and coastal flooding and sea level rise. So, for example, Stanley Park, we all know these points so well, right? Stanley Park, Kitts Beach, Burrard Inlet, and north of the airport would be underwater. Underwater. Granville Island is completely submerged in this model. Now, all of us have been to Granville Island, right? Well, Nigel is one of the top students from Emily Carr. As you know, Emily Carr, their first campus.
How was that Granville Island?
Emily had Granville Island. So, Granville Island underwater by the end of the century. So the problem is, yes?
Did the rest of the world, their islands did they submerge, go underwater? Like, so something like Fiji, will it be underwater as well? Will the world be the different?
You know what, I wish you didn't mention Fiji because I'm going there in December. Now you're making me nervous.
I've been there, it's fine.
Okay, thank you. I gotta give me a comfort letter before I go. Well, that's a very good question because there's actually a whole theme of writing and TV documentaries about island submergence. So you all heard of Maldives, right? The Marshall Islands.
Yeah.
So these islands are projected to be literally underwater by the end of the century. It's interesting that the Marshall Islands have arranged a deal with the U.S. government. So the U.S. government has agreed to resettle. There's only like 20,000, 25,000 people in the Marshall Islands. So the U.S. government has agreed to resettle all of those folks at the right time when they need to go to Arkansas. So we were doing a seminar.
Upper Arkansas or lower?
See, smart. You're right. And so we were doing a seminar a couple of months ago, and one of the guests said, why would they want to go to Arkansas? And then another guest, really quick, said, if you've been flooded out or submerged, you want to go to Arkansas because you can go to northern Arkansas and you're up high and you don't even want to see water. Right? But yeah, this is a big issue of island nations like Marshall Islands, Maldives. Venice will be underwater, unfortunately. But not only that, it's all these, there's like about 1 billion people that live along coastal areas in the world today. I mean, and all of us have traveled, right? We know, like, think of Shanghai, Hong Kong, New York, Miami, London, all these coastal cities, Amsterdam, right, are going to face water, because if the water level, it doesn't sound like a lot, but if water goes up 1 meter by the end of the century, which is, it's just projected, then all these coastal areas, like Thailand, I've been to Bangkok, they just outside of Bangkok, they have all these incredible rice fields. Well, salt water is going to kill your rice crop, because salt's so corrosive, right? So you got all these people, and they may not be submerged, as in Marshall Islands, but they will have their city flooded out, like Bangkok, Calcutta in India, or Kolkata, huge risk, Manila, because the water level will rise, it will flood, and you can't infrastructure your way out of a problem like that. I mean, you can do some mitigation, but you can't infrastructure your way out by building berms and walls, because the power of nature is too strong, the power of the ocean is too strong to kind of, like the little boy that, you know, in the Dutch mythology, he put his finger in the dike.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's not going to work. It's not that simple. So we've got, in our own backyard, so to speak, we're going to deal with this issue of you know, flooding, sea level rise.
Are we dealing with it?
Good question. My sense is that we are talking about it, which is good, and that's why this forum and others is so important, but we're not really taking proper mitigation steps. Like my big thing, I teach an environmental course here. If any of you want to audit the course,
I would love
it's
to.
called Political Science 2100. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, thanks.
So here's the thing. Don't get me started on government.
I know. I know.
But government is remodeling the Vancouver International Airport and spending hundreds of millions of dollars. Has anybody told these folks that the airport will be underwater by the end of the century? Where's the thinking? Where's the planning and the foresight? So the truth is that the planners at the federal, provincial, municipal level are talking about these issues, but they're not being very proactive about it, because they don't feel the urgency. But the problem with this issue is that when it's now urgent, it's going to be almost too late. Right? So, yeah.
Wasn't there a group of scientists that came out a couple of weeks ago and stated that we had about 20 years until reversing climate change is
Yeah.
a non-issue, it's not going to happen.
See, this is why I like coming to talk, because you guys, if I may use that modern term,
Yeah.
no offense, you know, you ladies, you guys, you're so tuned in, and you're absolutely right. The climate scientists are saying we have a 2 to 3 decade window, and we better act fast. And the sense is that there's just not a realization yet of how urgent it is. Okay, what is climate change? It's just a very simple definition. It's sea level rise a minimum of 1 meter by 2100. It's drought. This is an interesting phenomenon called desertification, where basically lands turn into desert, and so therefore you can't grow any crops. Now remember, if we're going to go up to 9.5 billion people, we've got to feed these people with a declining water base, which means food production becomes essential, and yet we're increasingly having drought and desertification. The interior of BC is turning into a drought region. We all know about the forest fires this summer. In northern China, there are 400 villages that have turned into desert. 400 villages, and they'll increase exponentially because the heat process in northern China is increasing. China is an irony of climate because they have drought in the north and flooding in the south. Flooding, as noted here, is symptomatic of climate change. We also have extreme heat. Do you know that 3 of the hottest years in recorded history have been in the last 15 years? So when people say to you, oh, debunk climate change, it's a myth, it's an invention of government and NGOs and Greenpeace. Okay, climate change is not new, that's true, but the rate of climate change has gone so fast, that is new. So imagine a car going toward a wall at 3 miles an hour, and it's 2 miles from the wall. There's lots of time to react. But what happens if the car suddenly speeds up to 30 miles an hour? it's gonna hit the wall a lot faster, and suddenly we're not prepared yet to remove the wall, so the car's gonna hit the wall. And this is what we're dealing with climate change. The acceleration of flooding, heat, drought, desertification, Arctic ice melting is coming so fast, it's increasing exponentially, and that's why we're in this critical climate change issue right now. Crop decline, 40% of Japanese rice production will be wiped out by the end of the century because of extreme heat.
It's already happening.
Exactly. Thailand will be hit as noted, India will be hit as noted. Crop decline, high food prices. Now consider the fact that there's 1 billion people in the world living on $1.75 US a day. You increase the price of food by 40%. They don't get the extra food. They eat that much less, and they therefore will suffer more starvation and more malnutrition. So people on $1.75 a day have zero flexibility when it comes to income for food. This is a very serious concern. Now, let's talk a little bit about flooding. This is a quote from somebody that is in Bangladesh. This is everyday climate change at work. A slow onset shift destroying lives and livelihoods before our eyes. This woman, Renu Babi, 80 years old, she said, today boats pass, this is Bangladesh, she said, today boats pass over the place where our land was. Sometimes 3 or 4 villages will be destroyed. And she's living in a slum in Mirpur district of Dhaka, which is Bangladesh. This picture is very captivating because it really displays like that people are becoming a little tiny endangered island in the middle of all of this climate change and flooding.
Excuse me, that's the classroom next door. It's
That's
not-
fine.
Okay.
So the second theme that Nigel and I are emphasizing today is sustainable farming, food for the world, we call it. So approximately 70% of fresh water today, remember we only have 1% of the world is fresh water, so 70% of that fresh water is used for farming and agriculture. That's pretty much standard across most countries. Some countries it's a little higher, some it's a little bit lower, but basically it's about 70% of fresh clean water is used for agriculture. But the challenge is that our water source, our water tables are going down, right? So sustainable farming is urgently needed now, and sustainable farming means using better pipes, using something called rainwater harvesting, where you can collect water on the roof and store it in tanks. Rainwater has been around for 4,000 years in recorded history, but now that water is so scarce, excuse me, we need to revisit rainwater harvesting. We need more of a vegetarian diet. You know the old story that it takes something like 50 gallons of water to make a Big Mac. It's not sustainable. Pecans, which everybody loves pecan. Pecans are one of the most water-intensive products that you can grow.
And I've heard also almond, like
Yes.
I've kind of switched occasionally to almond milk, then stopped, because then I heard that uses so much water. And anyways, it's like the vegetarian diet also, some of it is water intensive.
You're right, and that's a very good point. And so what we really need is, there's nothing wrong with eating chicken or fish or beef, but what we need to do is introduce more of a vegetarian diet so we have a more balanced diet, because we just don't have the water to eat meat the way we are eating. You've got garden towers. This is a real facility. Look at that. It's not a condo complex. It's a garden condo complex. It's really cool. And these are some of the future ideas that we're going to see. Solar power, of course. Transition town is a small town that goes off the carbon grid. A small town. It started in England, in Devon, England region, where they have a little community. They have electric cars, community gardens, wind power, solar power, no vehicles allowed, bicycles. It's really exciting. Yeah, Doug.
What about all the, like we're just out towards the border, and all the greenhouses that are going up all through the lower mainland? Is that sustainable? Is that using more resources?
It is sustainable, yeah. I mean, greenhouses, and if you want to get, because we're so land abundant, we can spread out, but when you have areas in, for example, parts of China, parts of India, where land use is difficult, you do these garden towers. So you don't go horizontal, you go vertical. So you could have a 20-floor garden tower, and instead of a condo on each floor, you've got broccoli and ginger and peas, and it's really exciting.
Excuse me,
Yes.
is that,
Yeah, I live in Delta, where there's lots of greenhouses, and I know that they grow about 4 times as much food as just the field underneath would have done. But my complaint is that why do they have to be on fertile land? A greenhouse could be anywhere where the sun shines, right? It could be on bog land or industrial type sites or whatever, so long as there's sun.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. So what you got going on there, in my view, is 19th century thinking. So they're still thinking greenhouse, oh yes, we got to locate it on farmland. But the fact is, you can put a greenhouse anywhere because you're using, as you noted correctly, solar power, you can use wind power, and you can have more efficient piping. One of the problems with agriculture is most pipes are broken and leaking, so the water is not actually getting to the plant, to the corn, or the broccoli, or the beets. We got to also make sure that we have a better piping system. But you're absolutely right. We don't have to locate a greenhouse on a farm. I mean, as revolutionary as that sounds, it could be located. And my big thing is all of the public buildings, federal, provincial, municipal buildings, you can have rooftop gardens. Now, okay, so we're not going to turn all 100% of them into rooftop gardens. But what if we only took 10% of them? Only 10% of federal, provincial, municipal buildings dedicated to a rooftop garden. We could be supplying food to all the food banks in Canada. Plus, we could be using it as a teaching tool for little children and all people. And then you can have people that are in a condo that don't have access to a nice garden. They can have a piece of land or a plot in that rooftop garden. That's the kind of creative thinking that we've got to start looking at. Yeah.
That comes more from industry. Like, look at the hotels that are saying our herbs come from the rooftop. Like, I mean, we need government, but they're always so slow.
Yeah.
Because they're not looking at profits. But like a marketing tool in the big hotels, like they're having rooftop gardens. I mean, the big thing is we grew all our produce on the roof, right? But that comes from industry,
Yeah.
thinking outside the box.
Exactly. So we need to be pushing. We need public participation, like you folks, all of us here in the room, students, writing letters, getting vocal, getting active, and then we can change the mindset. Because the solutions are out there, but there's no will. That's
Oh,
the
there's
thing.
no
The
will.
will, and the will is what's going to make it happen.
I want to just take you back a little bit from what we just started now. So can you kind of give me sort of a visual picture of what these gardens are? Like you said it was a building, like a building? What?
Yeah, so basically what you're doing is imagine a condo tower, which is easy to imagine in Vancouver.
Yeah.
But instead of a combination on each floor is basically vacant, and it's planter boxes. And you're growing on each floor vegetables, squash, zucchini, raspberries, strawberries. Now you can heat it with solar panels. You can generate it if you want, or with wind power. And then you use rainwater harvesting, and because we have so much rain in Canada, we can collect rainwater. Rainwater harvesting has been been around for thousands of years. You collect rainwater off the roof, you funnel it in with cheap plastic pipes into cisterns or barrels, and then you've got an enormous water supply. So we don't have to use any water off the green. No water from the watershed needs to be used. You can take it all from the rainwater harvesting. So that's the concept. And you're going to see more garden towers around the world, particularly in water-strained places like China and India, because they have to do it.
So where are they getting the sunshine, basically, to grow?
Well, the sunshine would be natural, and you can
So
also
the
use,
windows then, is that what you're
yeah,
saying?
and you can also use solar panels.
Yeah, but I think of solar panels as heat.
Yeah, but you can generate light as well.
Okay.
Solar panel will generate heat, but they'll also generate light.
Okay,
So,
cool idea.
so let me run through some of these, and then we'll get Nigel up here as well. So, just the human rights setting is the United Nations, of course, has affirmed that water is a human right, and they've affirmed in this general comment number 12 that everybody has the right to adequate food, and food is one of the basic human rights. So we talked earlier about the food crisis. So if we've got 9.5 billion people by 2050, we've got to be more creative, more humanitarian about getting people food, because we're facing a massive food shortage crisis already. It's only going to increase, unfortunately. This is interesting about Japan. I was in Japan in July of this year doing a lecture at the University of Tokyo, and Japan is getting buffeted by tremendous rain, storms, and then tremendous heat. And one of the symptoms of this will be a 40% decline in the Japanese rice crop in central and southern Japan by 2100. So Japan has got some real serious challenges ahead of them. Now this is rainwater harvesting. It's so simple and beautiful. It's been recorded in history over 3,500 years ago in China, Greece, Rome. It's so simple. You collect water off the roof, you funnel it through a plastic pipe into a barrel or a cistern, and then you have these disinfectant tablets that the UN Water and NGOs will give you for like 5 cents. You pop one in every week or two, and you keep a lid on it so you don't get leaves coming in and so forth. But I mean, rainwater harvesting is one of the most beautiful, organic solutions to water scarcity, particularly in places like China, India, South Africa, Greece, Italy, parts of Brazil, and so forth. Yeah.
I was in Bermuda about 20 years ago, and Bermuda has no water. So they collect all their water with the system. But what I was really impressed with was, and they have limestone roofs where the water is filtered down on a design into the underground cistern. But there was a Holiday Inn there, a great big one. And so to supply water for the whole hotel, they had this hillside that they just pretended it was a big roof. And it was all limestone with these kind of graduated designs that took the water down into various underground. And that supplied the whole hotel. It was brilliant.
It is absolutely brilliant. You're right. So there's a village in India, and you can see how simple it is to actualize this rainwater harvesting. Now, the third theme that Nigel and I have emphasized is water carriers. So in poor water-stressed communities, people have to walk, and the average is 3.75 miles per day walking. And unfortunately, UN has done a lot of studies on this. About 90% of the water carriers are actually women and girls. So the physical challenges are enormous. They're already often malnourished. They don't have a proper diet. And so just going to get the water is challenging. And then if they can't boil the water, what's been happening is people are using dirty water, and if they don't have an accelerant like wood, they just drink the water. And then they get chronic diarrhea and chronic intestinal infection and so on and so forth, which is so tragic, because something that we go to Shoppers Drug Mart and you get Pepto-Bismol and you're fine, It's just such a great tragedy because little children are dying and people are dying because they're drinking this uncontaminated water. So it's a huge problem. And you look at global water scarcity. Look at all these areas. The red is the orange is medium crisis, but the orange or the dark orange and the red are crisis areas. And as you can see, all of those areas that are in crisis are primarily areas of development challenge. So you got poverty and climate change and water scarcity hitting the poorest people in the world.
It was interesting. I was in a town called it's a village in Africa. It's still making an impact on me. And so anyways, I had the privilege, this entrepreneurial young woman, a day in the life of her in the village. And only in the last 2 years have they got fresh water with taps.
Yeah.
Every 200 feet. And we were taught to carry the water on our heads, us old folks.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids were just amazing. But the things that we take for granted, washrooms.
Yes. Yeah, we're very blessed, there's no question. I mean, look at these little children, they're doing this every day. It's hard on their bodies are developing, they're often malnourished, so it's a huge challenge. So these are some of the innovations that we talked about earlier, you know, rainwater harvesting, transition town, vegetarian diet, condo tower, rooftop garden, wind and solar power, very exciting, and they also will create millions of jobs, so it's very exciting. It's very exciting. So at this point, let me turn the floor over to my colleague Nigel, and he's going to share with you these original art pieces that he did. Shall we turn the light on then?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you. You're the light boss.
It's like Ross for having me here and thank you guys for being here. And I'm gonna be honest, I feel a little nervous. This is my first time talking to this many people about my work. And yeah, I was informed that we have this facility until 1, and she asked me if I have 30-minute worth of talk. I was a little bit nervous that I don't have 30-minute worth of talk, but I would like to talk a little bit about my work. Because I didn't know much about the water rights situation before I met Professor Ross, and he kind of went through with me what the situations were, and then we went through the slides too, and some of the work you see over here, like this one, I was inspired by the flooding picture that we saw a little bit earlier. These are oil painting on canvas, and I made them just for this topic, and it's kind of my reflection on the subject. I'm still a student from Emily Carr. I'm in my 3rd year, so it's everything about the world and how we're approaching water is still a little bit new to me. So I'm taking from more of a outsider's perspective when I was approaching this topic, and I hopefully use my color and kind of, you know, describe the situation that we're having and kind of that post-apocalypse sort of feelings. And I'm not really good at talking about it, so this is what thing we do in school. It's called a close read. So I would like you guys to kind of comment on my work a little bit, and I would love to hear your feedbacks about them. Because I'm still learning, I hope you guys would enjoy these work as I do. Is there anything that you guys noticed that from these paintings? Yeah.
Well, when you see the red glow in there, it reminds me when we were coming back from Hawaii through the forest fires.
Mm-hmm.
And we were looking in the clouds and the smoke and that red glow. Now, is that something you're depicting or just?
Yeah, that glow is sort of like, this is the flooding image I saw earlier. I kind of played around with it. It's not exactly the same, but it's the same concept. It's about, you know, when I hear about the flooding issues, I thought about what these people have been through, and I really hope to use my work. I know the image is kind of in a cooler color, but I hope to have some brighter color on the other side to show there's still hopes and a lot of cares from the community that we can help them out or we can do something about these kind of situations. And that was the main focus of this painting. And yeah, it's kind of like, you know.
It looks like the
sunrise.
city behind is burning.
Yeah, I kind of exaggerated the situation. They're not really burning. It's kind of, you know, that broken.
It's like the end of the world.
Yeah, that's what I feel about these.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I felt about these situations. And as me growing up in Vancouver, it was never really that big of a problem for us. For our generation, we never realized if I were to do a talk about water for our school, I don't think many people would show up about the topic because we're really unaware of the situation that's going on now around us. So I will hope to, you know, this is our first talk working together. I hope to kind of bring more words saying and hopefully we can do more and more to raise awareness for, you know, just for water alone.
Well, for me, I kind of get the image that, like the water part, there's the light water, which is kind of the clean, clear water, and then the dark is all the polluted water. And I get the same image really with the sky. So, you know, you've got the sky that's, you know, what we kind of see is kind of happy and whatever, and then this dark sky coming in, taking over, you know, like a polluted sky.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. I feel like there's definitely good part about this world, and there's solutions that we can do. There's, you know, we can raise awareness. We can do a lot of things to help out, but there's still going to be problems around us. So I was hoping to use this image to kind of show that there's a little bit of hope left, and we just have to kind of pedal through our process and kind of figure out a solution for everybody. And this piece is actually related to the water carrier. Because when Professor Ross told me about the girls that are carrying the water, I was trying to imagine what it's like to going down. You know, he mentioned, I forgot how many miles it was, but it was a long distance travel for a young girl or a woman that, you know, physically is already challenging enough, but they have to carry waters that are a lot heavier than they are. So I thought about the journey that they have to take, and I used kind of like a more. That one's about flooding, this one more like a droughting situation that's going on here. And then I use a lot of brighter colors to kind of emphasize on where she is, but same idea as that one. We have the dark color kind of surrounding it, showing that it's a tough situation for them to have. And if you can see in the middle, there's a girl just carrying a jug of water, trying to walk her way back to where she lives. And it also made these little design pieces. We talked about how to improve our situation on a day-to-day basis, how we can help always the situation. And there's a quote I really like when Professor Russ put on the end of this page, think big, do small, do now. I printed them out in a little card form. So I'll hand these out, you guys, everybody can have one, so it's just kind of, so we can have something to take home with.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And then you just take.
This painting reminds me almost of being in space, looking down on the Earth that is in turmoil.
Yeah, that's what it reminds me of too. I feel like it's hard for us to kind of understand what they're going through, but we always kind of being like a bystander and watching these things happening. And I want to kind of show that aspect of us kind of looking, not really looking down on them, but we never really experienced what they experienced, so I want to kind of depict that journey that they're taking through my artwork and the color choices and the subject matter I'm using.
How do you think, I think my generation, not necessarily an excuse, but we sort of can think, oh, well, it won't happen to me, I'll be dead before this happens. Your generation, that's not true. How do you think they can get people of your age and younger to realize this is going to impact them?
Yeah, I think that is a very important topic to us, but not everybody realizes the situation because not only the water environment situation is getting worse, and also because there's more population down there, the competition is getting worse. Everybody's worried about getting a job, everybody's worried about their lives. There's not a lot of people would come together and worry about the whole environment issues where there's a really lack of attention to them in our generation, I feel like. Especially
Do you think it's because it's overwhelming?
I think because everybody has something going on, and because I feel like there's a lot of competitions going on when, you know, for our generation. Because when I grew up, there was a lot of homeworks. When I was in China, obviously, there was a lot of homeworks, and there was a lot, because the population was quite overwhelming. And then we have to kind of, it's funny because we have to go through high school and college, and there will always be like categorized classes. So if you're the top student from the top class, you'll have better chances of finding a job afterwards. And because the population is kind of growing really fast, and not everyone gets that opportunity, also that causes a lot of other problems as well, like housing. Right? There are not a lot of kids can afford houses these days, and we all know Vancouver housing is going up too. Being here, everybody's kind of worrying about that the whole time. So it's kind of like they have to worry about themselves before they can worry about everybody else. I think that's a major issue. So I think for us to, for us to be able to kind of relate to the topic, we'll have to kind of put it into a sense of, we just have to be more aware of the situation. I guess through more, we have social media and internet right now. I think if just more of these events coming up for a younger generation will be a great thing for them to kind of learn and understand about it.
It should be introduced in the schools more because, like, I remember when I was in elementary school, I didn't even know that climate change existed. I didn't learn about it until I went to university afterwards. So, like, now I work at a preschool and we're talking about it more, but chances are once kids go to elementary school, they're not going to hear about it again, so they're not going to remember.
Yeah,
and that's another thing.
We really have any saying on these kind of social matters or environment changes, climate changes. Yeah, I think it's a really, it could be the school system's fault, but I feel like it's everybody's responsibility. That's why I want to kind of use my work and my design to kind of spread that kind of awareness. Because people do follow trends. Kids nowadays do follow trends a lot. So if we can make, saving the environment or, changing the water situation in our world become a trend, then I hope everybody will kind of pick up from there. I think that would be the best solution for this kind of problem. Wait. What do you guys think of the card? It kind of has a little message.
Nice water drop.
Yeah, they kind of use that as kind of like a metaphor. I'm really glad you guys are here. You guys are like the last drop of water we're trying to save here. I think it's a really good message. I hope this card kind of reminds everybody that it is a global issue, that we're all part of this world, and I hope using this card can kind of remind you guys on a daily basis that we can do something about it and we can make the world a better place.
I think they should be Christmas cards.
I should have made them into Christmas cards. Yeah, and there's in the back, just our little contact information. This is Dr. Ross's website. You guys go check it out. He does a lot of community work. He travels a lot. He does a lot of talks here and there. And this is my Instagram account. I don't post a lot of stuff. I only post stuff that I think is important. So there's a couple of my words and events that I did, so you guys can take a look and follow up with this.
Go ahead.
Oh, I have 3 kids in their 20s, and like you said, they're all busy with school, university, work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of competition for them to get jobs now. It's way more competitive than we were when we were looking for jobs. Before you could just walk in and you were hired on the spot. But now, they're so focused on, like you said, themselves and their careers, but yet in some ways they're blaming my generation, that we messed this up for them, that we didn't do what we were supposed to do when we were supposed to do it. And now we're kind of messing up all of this climate, the climate issues and the environment is all gonna fall down on them and their kids.
Yeah, I can see people say that, but I think it's everybody's responsibilities, right? I think it's just lack of recognition and seeing what's really happening, because I feel like the trend, not really the trend, but the kind of where we're going with this young generation, so-called millennial, is kind of everybody's kind of following everything online. There's a lot of sharing online. There's both Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all these things are sharing platforms that people can go on and share about their life. So there's, in a way, that kind of puts pressure on every single person that's growing up, because they all look at other people's lives and like they have it better than us. Then they'll want to kind of accomplish that first before they make a bigger impact in this, into like the environment or a society, something that's bigger than themselves. I feel like there's not enough people that are aware of the situation and talking to everybody about it. And it's not like our generation don't really care about these things, because we live on the planet. We need the Earth as well. So I just feel like there's just lack of kind of people coming out and talking to everybody about it. Yeah.
Do you think that teaching children not to leave the tap on and when they're brushing their teeth and stuff like that? Since I've been conscious of this sort of thing, I don't do it anymore. I'm very careful with water. Do you think it makes an impact if we all do that?
Definitely. I think it's just a little bit. It's kind of building out the habits, right? If they just turning out the tap today, the next thing they'll realize that they're doing something that's more than just turning out the tap and saving water bills. And it's more about caring.
It's not necessarily the water bill, it's the water.
Yeah, it's the water that they're saving, and it's not just for that one-time actions for a long term. I feel like that's a great way to kind of plant that seed in their head, and as they grow up, they'll realize that the water is an important part of their life as well.
I remember when I was growing up, and my mother and father had 6 children, and when we took a bath, we would say, "The water's still clean, does anybody want it?" You know, that's the way we lived.
Yeah, that's the way, but we don't really experience that nowadays.
And we weren't
right?
poor, that's how we lived.
I agree, yeah.
One of the things that I do is I keep a jug of water in the fridge, because with my water tap, I mean, the water doesn't come out. You know, it just wastes so much water, whereas if I just stick it under the tap and fill this up and put it in the fridge, then I get cold water that I want.
Yeah, I think that's a great way.
Yeah.
That's part of my idea with this design, and I was hoping to make it into a little sticker, but I kind of couldn't find a place that makes stickers this week. But I was hoping this could help you guys, kind of remind you guys doing something a little bit here and there. Like the quote said, think big, do small, do now. We don't have to do a lot of big things. We can just do things that within our ability and kind of try to make small changes on a daily basis. I think that will help a lot more if we all can also, yeah.
Further to that, another good reason to put water in the fridge overnight or whatever, and I learned this from my son who was really into aquariums. He'd always have a bucket out before putting it in the fish tank. He'd leave it out for 24 hours so the chlorine would evaporate out of it, because the fish don't like chlorine, right? And another good thing to do is just shut the light off when you leave a room.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't used to do that, you know, lights were burning all over, but that helps, I think. Although some people say a bulb will last longer if you don't have it on and off. But at least you're saving electricity, which comes from water.
Yeah.
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 Also, I mean, just put the price up and you'll soon become more conscious. I mean, in Europe, the price is always expensive, so you basically get trained very quickly to be aware of that. In Ontario, that water and electricity is very expensive, so people are becoming more conscious and talking about it all the time. So that also has deterred people from wasting rather than using.
Yeah, I believe we have that in China as well. I went back a couple of years ago. We have a water card, so you just kind of purchase it monthly. So you get that amount of water when you shower. You gotta wash your meters, don't go overboard. Yeah. This is great. I'm learning more from you guys than you guys are learning.
It's a sort of a little bit off the topic, but when you're studying at Emily Carr, you have these two which are very dark. Do you sort of stay on the same mindset, or do they ask you what to?
Yeah, I would love to talk about school. I think for us, we kind of have the freedom to do whatever we want. So they don't really kind of tell you what you have to paint or what kind of separator you have to talk through your painting. But when we get to like third, fourth year, it's more just whatever you want to do. But you gotta do your work. We'll have a weekly critique, like what we're doing right now. We'll be having a close critique, so people will. Our classmates will talk about our work, and we'll just sit there and listen. If they say something bad about it, we can't even talk back to them. We gotta wait till the end of the critique, and then we can kind of go back and talk to them about how to make it better and stuff like that. So we don't really, focus a lot of things on just one topic. So we kind of just practice here and there. And this is just kind of what I'm comfortable with and what I've been making. So yeah, it was really an honor to make art pieces for a talk. I had never seen the format before. When me and Ross came together and talked about it, we thought it was a great idea to kind of you know, he gave a lot of information. I think he did a great job telling us about the water information, and me was more relaxing, kind of. I hope you guys enjoy the paintings. And,
Yeah.
You know, I believe we can take a break at 12, right? So
We can take a break whenever you finish the questions.
yeah, sure. Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I went to the Vancouver School of Art way back in the 60s, pre-Emily Carr. And the 60s were a pretty wild time. And there was a lot of art being done on social issues, etc.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, is that going on today at Emily Carr? Is there
There's a lot of
environmental issues?
There not a lot. I have met artists that focus specifically on environmental issues, but most of the. I don't want to say no one's caring about it, but very few artists are working on environmental issues. More because contemporary art is quite different from what we had. Like in the '60s was like Picasso, Andy Warhol as we growing up, but now it's more of like express yourself, more of talk about your feelings and how you see different things. And it's more for display and visual. But I believe that as we kind of move on with all these critical issues coming up, I believe there will be more artists talk about these specifically.
Yeah, because your paintings have a message.
Yeah, I was hoping to pass this message on to my work as well. Yeah, so I think we can have a break soon, but I want you guys can feel free to come up and look at the painting. They're freshly painted, so they're not fully dry yet. So just be careful with your clothes and stuff. But you guys feel free to come up and take a look at them. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me.
Do you sell those?
Pardon?
Are you gonna sell any of that that you
You
paint?
just want to buy?
We're taking bids.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
that's the way I guess you have to do it, take bids, I have no idea. And I also remember my mother saying that, we sign your paintings and I don't see any.
Oh, we don't. I was told like you don't sign your paintings anymore.
Really?
Yeah, they don't really because they devalues the.
Really?
Yeah, I was told that when I first went to school because I used to sign my name to all my paintings when I was learning, but no one does that anymore. They sign in the back and kind of ship it off to collectors. Just sometimes collectors don't want your name.
How do you feel about that?
Whatever. As long as they're buying my painting. I don't think the name is kind of that important
Put
because
it
it's more.
somewhere here where you know it's there.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, but yeah, I think that's just how things work now when they have too much knowledge.
Well, for someone who's just not comfortable speaking, you've done great.
Yeah.